Welcome back to the Sunny Stampin' Studio. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this Christmas card. Why don't we get started? First thing you're going to need is a scrap of grid paper. Grab some Dotto adhesive and then just place it in 3 spots on your scrap grid paper. You're now going to want the letters that are going to be used in your greeting, and these are chipboard letters from the Loads of Letters onboard chipboard collection. And what I'm doing is sticking them down to the Dotto adhesive that I've placed on my scrap of grid paper. Once you've done that, you want to grab some craft ink, and I'm using it in Real Red. Now you're going to take the top off, flip this upside down, and then just press it all over your letters until they're completely covered with the red ink. Now I use craft ink a lot to color my chipboard letters, and I much prefer to use the Stampin' Spots over the big pads. I find it's less messy and you have more control over where you're coloring. Now as you're doing this, you want to make sure that you press your Stampin' Spot in a straight up and down motion, and you just keep pressing it all over the letters like so. So you can see now they're all covered in red. So now what we want to do is just set this aside to dry. Once your letters are dry, you're going to need to grab Stampin' Up's Crystal Effects glue and some chunky red glitter from the Chunky Essentials glitter collection. Now I keep my Crystal Effects top stoppered by a pin, and that keeps it from clogging while I'm working with it. Once you're done working with it, you then take away the pin and just put the cap on. Now I'm just going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. What I want to do is to squeeze some glue on the top of each of the letters. Once that's done, you can then take a brush, or in this case I'm just using my finger, and what I want to do is to spread out the glue on the surface of my letters. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. Now holding on to my scrap of paper, I'm going to hold it over my dish in which I have my chunky glitter stored, and I'm just going to start spooning my glitter over the letters. You will notice that some of the glitter is going to stick to the Dotto adhesive that you had placed to hold the letters down, and that's okay because we're going to be peeling it off this paper afterwards. Now you'll notice as you're doing this that even though you've spread the glue fairly well all over the letters, it doesn't always necessarily cover them 100%, and that's why I like to pre-color them in the same color that I plan on using for the glitter. So once you have them all glittered and you've gotten rid of the excess, you just want to take your finger and very gently press it down. And what I'm doing is I'm pressing the glitter into the Crystal Effects glue. Then once you've done that, again, you can just shake off any excess. So set that aside for the moment, and you're going to now want to grab your card base. And this is a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of chocolate chip cardstock, which I scored at 5 1/2 inches and folded in half. I'm now going to take a piece of designer paper, and this is from the Merry Moments designer paper collection, and it is 5 1/4 inches by 2 1/2 inches. I'm just going to put some sticky strip on the back side, and I'm going to center it along the top of my card, like so. Next thing you're going to need is a strip of old olive cardstock. This is 1 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/2 inches, and I have a strip of designer paper, also from the Merry Moments designer paper collection, that is 1 inch wide by 5 1/2 inches wide. So what I want to do is to put some snail on the back of this strip of DP, and I want to center it onto my old olive cardstock. Now you'll notice as I'm doing this, I'm first aligning my old olive cardstock with my grid paper, because I just want to make sure that I have it nicely centered. Once you've done that, you can then go ahead and put snail adhesive on the back, line up your card with your grid paper squares, and then stick it on there. And the squares on my grid paper just help ensure that it's straight when I put it down. You can now go ahead and grab your letters, as they should be dry by now. Crystal Effects does dry very quickly. And you want to very carefully peel them off of the scrap of grid paper that you used. I'm now going to position them onto my card so that I can determine their placement. Like so. And then you can now go ahead and stick them on using your Crystal Effects. So I'm just going to make sure the tip of my bottle is clear, again with my pen. And I'm just going to put a very small amount on the letters. Now as you stick it to your card, try not to move the letter around too much, because otherwise what will happen is you'll get smears of glue in your cardstock and you will see them when they dry. It'll be shiny. And then now the last letter I have to stick down is the J. Now you will notice as you are handling the letters that some of the chunky glitter will fall off, and that's okay. You have the red on the letters underneath, so it doesn't show through. Now the last thing you're going to need to add as your finishing touch are your buttons. I have 2 buttons from Stampin' Up's Playground Designer Button Collection and 1 from their Button Latte. And I've already gone ahead and created what I call the faux thread, and that's where I thread my button with a sliver of cardstock, and I do have that in a previous video. So as you can see, I have all 3 buttons threaded already, so now it's simply sticking them onto the card using a mini glue dot. And there you have it. The card is done. A very quick, simple, yet glitzy Christmas card. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to stamping with you again.